Hello everybody. Today we will have talk number 3 and this will be about role of food to prevent significant health issues and switch on body healing. So really everything starts with one single cell. We have 37 trillions of cells in our body, but if we look after one cell, then we will look after all body. Therefore, I'll explain you the concept, why it's important to have healthy eating, how it affects cells, and how we can switch on healing mechanism just with the dietary adjustments. So, our cell requires vitamins, minerals, and enzymes to be healthy and to keep functioning well. And so what's most important, it's important for cell to keep electricity running, to remain healthy, and to be able to heal if any damage is done. Most of people don't know about the fact that our cells have electrical charge, and it's actually vitally important for life and for survival. So how it works? Every cell works like a small battery and it has charge, and as far as there is charge and electricity created at very low voltage, then all the cellular functions are in good health. But as soon as the charge is diminished, the cell begins to suffer difficult times with different types of damage. And if this electricity, this charge is not restored, then cell eventually dies. So the origin of cell dysfunction is a loss of cell membrane charge. I will explain how it works on very simple organism, amoeba. It's one cell organism, and there was experiment about changing the voltage of membrane and observing how this single cell organism will work in these conditions. So as you can see on the left, number 1, normal function, normal membrane voltage between minus 50 to minus 70 millivoltage. So this organism is working really well, moving, eating, digesting, having active transport. Then scientists artificially created voltage collapse, and finally there was zero electricity, 0 millivoltage membrane potential. Immediately this single cell organism stopped functioning, stopped moving, stopped transporting, and stopped feeding itself. So the cell, the organism appeared to be dead. And then scientists restored the voltage and all the functions returned back to normal. And this principle applies to absolutely any cells in our body. And life at the cellular level really critically depends on maintaining membrane voltage and ion gradient. But obviously we need to remember that if cell is damaged and voltage has diminished dramatically, and there is very significant damage of the function, if this function is not restored, then cell will die with no ability to come back to normal function. And this applies to any living cells. So that's why it's so important to feed our cells with good food, because it will affect directly transmembrane charge. As you can see, this is a cell membrane. Inside the cell, there is voltage minus 65 millivoltage, and that creates transmembrane gradient, and this is essential for cell survival and good functioning. So if we consume what I call live food, so food full of vitamins, minerals, enzymes, which feed your cell and keep it healthy, keep healthy transmembrane potential with a charge, then everything is very good. If you eat dead food for a very long time in excess, then essentially instead of supplying your cell with good nutrients, you actually deliver toxic stuff which damage all the function. The transmembrane gradient falls dramatically, and eventually cell is suffering and dying. So, what is live food? So first of all, it's any food which is minimally processed. It's food which contains essential vitamins and minerals and has ability to restore cell energy. So if we think about processing of the food in very simple terms, it's far more complicated, but I just tried to explain in very simple terms. You have original product, for example, potato, and then you get minimal processing and you get baked potato. So that's really it's processed food already, but it's minimally processed. And unless you add, ketchup, vinegar, sugar, vegetable oils, whatever, salt, your baked potato will be pretty close to original state. But as far as you start to interfere in adding multiple ingredients which are not really origin from the live food, then you get a more and more processing of the product. And as you can see on the right side, it's ultra processed food, which means it's been changed a lot significantly from the original state. And we'll talk about ultra processed food a lot just now. So as you can imagine, it's very difficult, very challenging to avoid consuming all the processed food. Unless you're really very strict vegans, you'll be eating a lot of food which is processed to some degree. And to be honest, processed food is any food that has been altered from its original state. But really the key element to the dietary changes is that majority of the time you choose more healthy food, minimally processed. And yes, it's fine to have some deviations from this pattern, but really if you do want to switch healing mechanism in your body, if you suffer from serious medical conditions, that it would be very important to consume as much as possible of unprocessed food. So what is that food? It's really mainly ultra processed food. It's not actually food, we call it food, but it's food-based products, different substances derived from food components or extracted from food, or even worse, completely synthesized in laboratories. And sometimes you take package and you have 30 ingredients, different chemicals, different vegetable oils, salt, sugar, some additives, flavorings, all this stuff. So this food is not food at all because it doesn't contain any essential minerals or vitamins or enzymes, but it's actually could be very toxic to your cell and to the ability to keep transmembrane charge. So we will just go through different types of live food, which is really, really good for your body. So first group is berries. So any types of berries, very, very healthy choice. They contain a lot of vitamins, they protect your immune system, some of them antibacterial, a lot of enzymes inside. So absolutely healthy choice. And surely if you combine different types of berries, you will do very well and keep your cells really healthy. So another group which is very important for healthy living, it's different types of seeds. I just put here 5: pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, flax seeds, sesame, and chia seeds. Or chia seeds. I don't know how to pronounce it correctly, but exactly these chia seeds are very, very important. They contain a lot of omega-3 fat. You've heard probably a lot about omega-3. It's very healthy fat, which is crucially important for good functioning of all your body, reducing chronic inflammation, having antioxidant abilities, and generally keeping your cells really running well and healthy. So another group, it's mushrooms, different types of mushrooms, and we probably don't use it too much. Well, in majority of kitchens you probably don't find a lot of different mushrooms unless it's very cultural, but mushrooms are really, really good. They contain multiple elements which boost your immune system, reduce stress. They're very powerful antioxidants. They may promote healing and different types of tissue. They're low in calories, high in fiber, so they're really, really good. And I listed some different types of mushrooms on the left, which are sort of top healthy mushrooms to eat. Then another group, spices. So spices are also extremely good for different reasons. They boost immune system. They contain multiple active elements like antioxidants, polyphenols, vitamins. They ease digestion, detoxifying effect. Some of them improve sleep and reduce anxiety. So they're really, really good. Turmeric is actually has also anti-cancer activity, and the active ingredient of turmeric is curcumin. So you can see sometimes curcumin, it's actually the very active substance of turmeric, which has very powerful anti-cancer effect. However, when this anti-cancer effect was proven in the laboratories, there was special type of curcumin used, which is much easily digested. However, if you buy it somewhere, so it's not very well absorbed, not easily absorbed. So probably would recommend just using usual turmeric because it has multiple balanced active substances which are very good for your health, and including curcumin. And then when it's taken as a whole, then it will be absorbed much easily by your body and will have much better effects. Saffron also very good for anxiety, for stress. As I said, most of spices have multiple active substances which are extremely healthy. Ginger also has proven anti-cancer effect, and if you can take it, if you like the taste, then that's excellent. Cinnamon, very good for blood sugar control, for digestion. Mustard seeds, nutmeg, cardamom, pepper, all the spices very good for variety of reasons. Anise and cloves, good for again cough, antibacterial, calming effect, boosting immune system effect. So if you have tradition to cook with different types of spices, that's very good habit. So the other group of live food, which is very healthy, very important to consume, it's different types of herbs. And again, I just listed few of them, the most commonly used, at least here in the UK, like parsley, mint, basil, chives, rosemary, bay leaves, oregano, chamomile. But there are many others, and when you see green leaves, they most likely are extremely beneficial for your health. Also put here echinacea and dandelion, because they have, again, quite powerful immune boosting activity, and again, very good for consumption for general health. So again, if you introduce in your diet, leaves on the regular basis, that will supply your cells with multiple essential vitamins and minerals. So the next group, which is also extremely good, it's different type of nuts. They virtually contain a lot of fats, but they're very good fats. But different types of nuts have its own benefits. But most of them, they're high in fiber, they contain different types of vitamins, stimulate immunity, help to regulate body sugar. It's rich in protein, folate, and different types of minerals. Some of them contain antioxidants. I probably would say the top nuts, top healthy nuts, but they're all good. It's probably walnuts. They also contain a lot of omega-3. Almonds, macadamia nuts, they especially powerful antioxidants. And as you know, nothing new, all types of vegetables are extremely good. Just make sure they're not too much contaminated by chemicals. Otherwise, it's always a healthy choice. And similarly with different types of fruits, they're all very healthy and contain a lot of minerals, vitamins, and all the essential stuff you need for your cell. So the next group is grains. Again, they are very good for multiple reasons. They're full of fiber. They help to control blood sugar. Quinoa, for example, also full of magnesium and iron. It's gluten-free, and quinoa contains all 9 essential amino acids, meaning you can make all types of protein for your body. Oats, excellent. Again, they try to lower cholesterol. It keeps you feeling full, so you don't have quick changes in your blood sugar level, which is very good for weight control. Brown rice, it's a very good source of manganese and selenium. Selenium is very powerful antioxidant. Again, a lot of fiber, so very, very healthy choice. Barley, same, support blood sugar control, good fiber source, contains vitamins. Buckwheat, very rich of antioxidants and promotes heart health, and also full fiber food. Now the separate slides for honey. Honey is wonder food. It's absolutely amazing. It's been proven to have multiple significant properties like anti-cancer, anti-aging, anti-inflammatory, anti-infective, very good cough relief, and even wound healing. However, please don't use supermarket honey to put on your open wounds, because it may be contaminated with some bacteria. But generally, honey is amazing, absolutely amazing food, which should be in every kitchen. So if you think about type of honey, it's all good. So people used to think, well, we need to buy very expensive Manuka honey to have, anti-cancer effect or whatever. It's not actually the case. Most of good quality honey, so what I mean good quality, I mean the real honey, not diluted, not brought from somewhere strange areas where, it's not true honey. If it's real honey which is not diluted, it will be good for your health, regardless which where it came from, and regardless the price, to be honest. So have to choose honey. Obviously, whatever you like is good for you. If you really have significant health issues and you really aim to switch on your body healing mechanisms, then I would advise to choose dark honey because it's more full of polyphenols and antioxidants. So this is very good to restore your cell charge and initiate healing process at all cellular levels. Again, have to assess whether honey is true. Apart from what you read from the label, it should be heavy. It should be really, it shouldn't be light. So if it's light, it's probably diluted. So it should be, good weight honey jar. Even in diabetic people, there've been trials showing that if even people have diabetes on multiple medications, metformin or whatever, or even people using insulin already, if they would consume a few spoons of honey a day, the sugar control would be better long term. So honey is absolutely indicated to everybody. There are no contraindications. Now, just a bit more about ultra-processed food. So why it's so bad? And if you really think of the concepts of cell electrical charge and the fact that when it loses its charge, it loses everything, all normal function. So how exactly food affects it? So first of all, ultra-processed food proven scientifically to cause at the cellular level chronic inflammation. And then cell membrane becomes leaky and less stable and that can't hold the charge. And that's how cells start to suffer different types of damage. Then oxidative stress, generally this toxic food without any active good healthy ingredients inside, create free radicals, and free radicals are very aggressive substances which attack all cellular structures, including membrane fats, and then membrane becomes less efficient at holding voltage. Electrolyte imbalance, crucially important because the main charge is held with the fact that there is special sodium-potassium pump working, sitting on the cell membrane. And if this electrolyte balance is disturbed and there's much of sodium which consumed with salt or some ready meals or packaged food, so you consume far more sodium than potassium or magnesium, and then electrolyte imbalance appears, affecting cell membrane charge. It also affects directly mitochondrial, which is structure inside the cell, producing energy. And again, energy is required for all variety of functions, but crucially important, vitally important for this sodium-potassium pump. So if all the time the bad food is consumed, doesn't bring anything good to cells, but have potential to damage it, then it creates chronic problem. And then ultra-processed foods contains trans fat or different types of altered fats, and they again just get incorporated into cellular membrane, replacing normal healthy components, and again cell as a result loses its normal charge. So it's really common problem, and I see it actually very frequently in the clinic when patients come and they have myriad of problems, they complain multiple issues apart from having serious conditions like cancer. But as soon as you try to pay attention to some lifestyle changes, then sometimes it's actually huge resistance. And virtually people think, well, you're the doctor, you know, I have problem, I have disease, you treat me, you give me magic tablet. The problem is there is no magic tablet. It's hard work, and it's a process. It's not something magical happening just with one pill. It's a process which needs to be initiated and contained, and then slowly your cells will be more healed and restoring their normal function. But it's not a quick and easy process. And surely if somebody consumes that food for months and years, then it causes eventually significant chronic problems. And unfortunately, many children virtually exist on this packaged food, all the different types of sweets and biscuits and a lot of different long shelf packed food full of chemicals and additives and flavorings. Now, just to mention, there is cancerogenic foods. So what it is? It's food which can cause cancer, as simple as that. So they're called cancerogenic substances. So what they are? So first of all, it's processed meats. They contain nitrates and nitrites, and they have direct carcinogenic effects. Virtually have ability to create cancerous growth. And it's bacon, sausages, ham, salami. So all this processed meat is not good. Then specifically red meats eaten in excess, and especially risk increases if it's high intake and if it's consumed with certain cooking methods, especially at high temperatures. So it's beef, pork, and lamb. There is association specifically with bowel cancer. Again, it doesn't mean you cannot eat red meats at all. It should be all in moderation. But surely, again, if you're concerned about your health, then healthier options would be to choose poultry like turkey or chicken and fish to try and give your body a boost and try to initiate more healthy eating pattern. The other carcinogenic substances, it's burnt or grilled food. It's virtually something to do with very high temperatures. Harmful compounds are created which damage DNA directly, causing cancer creation. And as we discussed, the actual fact that you consume ultra-processed food means long-term there will be oxidative stress, chronic inflammation at the cellular level, and which eventually will promote cancerous growth. When you take instant meals or packaged snacks, you always check ingredients, and if you have 20 30 ingredients, it's all chemicals really. So if you buy biscuits, again check the package. If you have few ingredients, then it's probably not too bad. But then if you have whole package with different names and abbreviations, then it's very bad. So smoking and vaping, obviously not food, but I must mention it here because it has direct carcinogenic effect. So smoking is associated with different types of cancers, not just with lung cancer as people believe. So smoking is bad for absolutely all cells in your body. Vaping is the same. So it's very big misconception that vaping is safe. It's not any safer than nicotine, and it still creates a lot of problem and has direct effect on cancer creation. Alcohol in excess, again, is associated with different types of cancers. So the other group of food which is not very good, it's food high in sugar and refined carbohydrates. It's not directly carcinogenic. It doesn't cause cancer directly, but what it does, it's promote insulin resistance and obesity, and then secondary this condition causing diabetes, and secondary to all this metabolic change, there is increased risk of cancer. Now, if we choose food, I don't mean being obsessed with choosing food, but I just mean if you try to think about healthy consumption, then if you think in terms of food with low glycemic index, then you can avoid multiple problems with weight problems, insulin resistant, diabetes, many other problems, autoimmune disorders. So food with high glycemic index means then when you consume them, they raise your blood sugar very quickly. So there are sort of waves. So sugar goes up immediately, very quickly, in large quantities. And then it requires a lot of insulin to be released from your pancreatic gland. And then this sugar can go inside the cell and feed the cell. But the problem is then food with high glycemic index, they cause very sharp rise of sugar and then rapidly goes down, causing low sugar, which is not good for you, and also you feel like you're hungry again, and then you need to eat something again. And then these cycles and this pattern repeated many times. And then eventually it leads to deficiency of insulin. So insulin sort of already exhausted, and then you have high sugar inside your blood, and there is no insulin to get it inside the cell. So first of all, the sugar damages your vessel. Secondly, because so much of sugar and can't go to the cell, then it starts to be stored like fat tissues. And also, at the same time, your cell is hungry because all the sugar is in the blood, but it cannot enter cell without insulin. So that's how it's called insulin resistance. And then it leads to whole metabolic change, eventually creating diabetes and further vessel damage at all different types of tissue in your body. So what glycemic index means and what high glycemic index means? So it's measured against the glucose. So if you take glucose, so sugar, pure sugar, so sugar's glycemic index is 100. And then all the food divided by glycemic index, which is actually objectively measured, and it's relative ranking from 0 to 100, sort of comparing certain type of food with sugar. So food with high glycemic index, like for example white rice, glycemic index 98, or white bread 70, or fries 75. So it's all food with high glycemic index. So that's bad, because if you consume it excessively all the time, you'll create very unhealthy pattern, and long term it will create problems, overweight, obesity, type 2 diabetes, chronic inflammatory processes, oxidative stress, cellular damage, because the cellular charge is dropping. Then food with sort of moderate glycemic index, like for example sweet potatoes or fettuccine or oat bran bread, they're sort of fine, and they don't have such a significant effect on blood sugar. So really, if you choose food based on its glycemic index, it's actually very important, because if you even take pasta or type of rices, they have all different types of food have different glycemic index. And even, if you really very Italian food eater and you like pastas, and you really can make a wise choice and use spaghetti or fettuccine, which have very moderate glycemic index, reasonably healthy, and you'll be fine. So really just choices to make, but then to make these choices you need to be informed, you need to be aware of this fact. So just to repeat, that foods with high glycemic index cause myriad of problems like obesity, metabolic syndrome, diabetes, heart problems, and chronic inflammation, which is base for cancer formation. And just to reiterate what happens, number one, you take food with high glycemic index, it quickly rises your blood sugar with sharp spike, so you need large insulin release to sort of digest this sugar and get it inside the cells. For this reason, pancreas releases large amount of insulin, and then glucose drops relatively quickly, and this waves goes again and again, and it's very unhealthy pattern. So the other thing to mention about glycemic index, if you Google and look at the different tables, there are multiple tables about food with their glycemic index. So you might be confused when you see that, for example, if you take watermelon, its glycemic index would be 75, and if you take donut, its glycemic index would be 76. And logically you would think, well, it can't be true. Watermelon surely should be healthy for my body. And you're right thinking this way, but then it doesn't make sense why these two things have similar glycemic index, but one is bad, one is good. So I don't want to confuse you, but there is another terminology like glycemic load. But essentially what it means, glycemic load is calculated by multiplying glycemic index by the amount of carbohydrate in grams for the one portion of food. So if you calculate this glycemic load, then you'll get in the end that donut have glycemic load of nearly 30, 29.5, but watermelon has only glycemic load of 5. So that's how it comes with the difference that watermelon, regardless of the fact that glycemic index high, actually healthy choice, but donut, which has the same glycemic index but have completely different glycemic load because of the sugar contained inside, so that's bad choice. Just for you to to be able to make this choice and just have a bit of more information making this choice. And it's another thing to think about, if you take, so why it's so important, and sometimes even doctors stress, and it's very important to take raw fruits and vegetables, not cooked. I mean, cooked vegetables, nothing wrong with them, they're good as well. But for example, if you take carrot, the fresh carrot glycemic index is around 15, but if you boil carrot, it becomes 70. So glycemic index changes if you even minimally process food. Okay, I think enough about that. And just to summarize, why food with high glycemic index consumed on the regular basis is not good, because it causes excessive weight and eventually can lead to obesity. And obesity is connected to different types of cancers. I just listed here a few which is scientifically based articles, but to be honest, there are far more evidence. It's just more scattered. So if you really take diet rich in high glycemic index foods, then it's increased risk of cancer in stomach, esophagus, uterus, bowel, ovaries. Some specific studies showed connection between type 2 diabetes and increased risk of bowel cancer, uterine cancer, breast, pancreatic, and actually a few more, I would say at least. And again, if you just take unhealthy weight and again, multiple studies show connection to different types of cancer like thyroid, cervix, prostate, breast. So it is a real problem. And when it's not just about body shape, it's not just about conception of, what's your weight. It's actually about health as such, and it's all down to single cell and functionality of the single cell. But it's enough for single cell to start making errors to create, for example, cancerous growth. So this is a pattern, and the more healthy is your diet, the more chance, and if any damage done, if any errors in cells, they'll repair themselves easily, just because they'll have good transmembrane charge, which is vitally important for survival. So, and just to mention foods with low glycemic index, well, surprise, surprise, it all comes back to fruits and vegetables and greens and all the healthy stuff you know about. So, how to reduce weight? Obviously, some people start to be concerned about weight, and many of us concerned about weight, but it's mainly about body shape rather than about thinking how healthy it is. So really, we shouldn't be thinking about body shape as much as about actual health. And really, if you start thinking about it, so first of all, you really need to recognize the problem. So when you recognize, yes, it is actually a problem, and if you feel motivated enough, then I need to start some change, then you sort of start the process. And I probably would advise to create some idea on your target weight. It shouldn't be ideal body mass index. If you look at the table, calculate your body mass index, and you point the finger and think, well, that's where I should be. It's not about that. It's like, again, just making slow changes in your lifestyle and your dietary habits slowly, and you will see the difference. So it shouldn't be an ideal body mass index. It just should be healthy pattern for your cells start to recover and heal and get back to normal. But the good start would be to try and estimate how much of kilocalories you consume during the day. So the calorie limit is very individual, but for average man, probably around 2,500 calories per day. Again, it's a good habit if you don't cook at home and you go somewhere, buy something, or buy a sandwich, which is again usually not healthy, because actually if you look at the sandwich package, you'll see so many things you would never try to put in your own kitchen. But anyway, so if you buy ready meals, any ready meals, you can always see on the package amount of calories you consume with this particular food. And then that's how you can make rough estimate how much you take during the 24 hours. And it would be a good start, because if you actually start monitoring a bit how much calories you consume, you might be very surprised, because you may not think that one biscuit may have 100 calories, and actually build up very quickly if you take during the day multiple snacks, which is high calorie, low vitamin food. And as I mentioned, you unlikely will succeed if you try suddenly to change everything, because you virtually will hate your new choices, and then it doesn't help, because come back to talk number 1 and talk number 2, you need to be joyful, you need to laugh, you need to enjoy yourself. So you need to eat food you really enjoy. So don't break pattern of dietary habits immediately. Just introduce some new healthy choices slowly. Just one new food per week or something. So if you try to replace everything by broccoli, you'll hate broccoli. You hate me. You hate everything around you. So don't do that. Slowly. And then if you do it slowly, just introducing one new product and going on again, you actually will see then your body will adjust very quickly, and finally it will ask you to eat more this healthy stuff, and if you try even to return to your bad habits and try to eat something, from the old life, your body will tell you, well, actually it doesn't, you will not like it. So actually it will be a very rewarding process. And easily you can find then actually you have completely new diet, and it's and you very, very much enjoying it. So another thing is important is drink 2 liters of fluid, I would say, for most of people. But surely if you have problems with heart, like heart failure or kidney problems, then please always get advice from your doctor whether it would be good for you to take 2 liters of fluids a day. Fluids, what to drink, it's actually a very big topic, believe it or not. So we won't be discussing it here now. So I also want to touch base of fats, good fats, because you all heard about omega-3. You probably heard less about omega-6 or omega-9, but generally what it means different type of good fats. We call them mono or polyunsaturated fats. And actually what's most important, it's the balance between how much of omega-3 you consume in relation to omega-6. So that's actually the crucial. So the dominant consumption should be of omega-3, and then you create the whole pattern of your body to fight any type of inflammation, any type of oxidative stress with free radical formation, damaging cells, membrane. So omega-3 should be dominant, and but then if you're deficient of omega-6 and 9, it's bad as well. But still, the balance with dominating omega-3 consumption is crucially important, because if you take more omega-6, they're on its own, they're good fats. But if you have this balance and omega-6 is more than omega-3, then you will cause completely opposite process in your body, pro-inflammatory, meaning you'll be creating chronic inflammatory process, again at the cellular level, and it will create base potentially for all the abnormal processes, including cancer cell formation. So omega-3 food, most of you will know already that, but it's fatty fish like salmon or trout. Seeds, flax seeds, chia seeds. So chia seeds extremely good. 1 teaspoon of chia seeds would contain as much of omega-3 as big portion of salmon. It's probably not cheaper than salmon, but it's really, really rich of omega-3. So flaxseed is very good. Flax is very good for people who suffer prostate cancer as well. It's proven in some laboratory studies anti-prostate cancer effect. Remember about flax seeds, when you consume them, they should be melted. So if you take them in whole, they will not be absorbed and you lose all the possible benefits. Walnut oil, not oil, but walnuts, very excellent source of omega-3, as well as cod liver. So again, it just to give you a bit of information, it's actually a lot to talk about food. So really jump from one topic to another, just to try and cover with this talk a bit of everything, just to give you idea. And then if you're interested in something and you have this idea, you can have a lot of information online by searching specific things. So it's really not the aim for me to give you too many details. It's important for you to understand the importance of some stuff. And therefore, we also need to discuss gut microflora and touch probiotics and prebiotics, because that's what I'm asked in the clinic all the time, but by people, because I think there is a bit of confusion what is what and why it's important. So, gut microbiome or microflora or bacteria, whatever you like, is absolutely crucially important for all body function. And now there is more and more accumulative evidence now for years that actually our gut bacteria are crucially important for immune system, to fight cancer, to reduce chance of autoimmune disorder, and even in connection to autism. And yeah, holy grail, it's inside the gut microflora. So if you take theoretically about your 2 kilograms of gut microflora, so 2 kilograms of bacteria sitting inside your gut, so you can divide them in sort of good bacteria and bad bacteria, but we all have both of them. Again, like with fats and omega-3 and 6, it's not about being bad, having bad bacteria. It's not about that. It's about having balance. So if it's balanced and the dominant pattern of your bacteria are the sort of good ones, then you'll be having healthy functioning. And vice versa, when it changes for whatever reason and some more pathological bacteria dominate, so then you may have myriad of problems, recurrent infections, autoimmune disorders, more chance to get chronic inflammation, cancer, and a variety of other problems, mood changes, depression, anxiety, all connected to gut microflora. So as I listed here, just to help myself being structured, so better digestion and absorption, so that means better weight control and better metabolism. About 70% of immune system linked to the gut. And also, as I mentioned, if you have balanced bacteria, then it reduces chance of autoimmune disorders. Again, the balanced bacteria profile lowers chronic inflammation, meaning the risk of inflammatory bowel disease reduced, also reduce heart problems, type 2 diabetes. Brain and mood support, because it regulates serotonin production, which is hormone against your depression, and also reduce stress responses. It also creates stronger gut barrier, so virtually preventing any harmful substances entering your bloodstream. Again, fighting different types of viral, bacterial, and fungal infections. So if bowel becomes leaky because of prevalence of bad bacteria, then how people get very susceptible to any types of infections. And there are a lot of emerging research suggesting direct links between balance of the gut microflora and aging process or reduced chance of some types of cancers. So now, how we can look after our gut microflora, because it's so important. And then you have this prebiotics and probiotics. So prebiotics, that's pre means it's before you have live bacteria. So the food which actually feed your live bacteria. So any types of fruits or vegetables, food full with fiber, it's all good for your healthy bacteria inside the bowel. So when you eat these foods, your good bacteria inside the bowel, healthy, cheerful, like you, and obviously complete all the function I described, which is very important for your body. So that's prebiotics. And it doesn't matter, for example, from this perspective, if you it doesn't matter whether you eat raw vegetables or boiled vegetables. It doesn't matter. It all contains fiber, and it still will feed your gut bacteria in a good way. So generally, with even food cooked at high temperatures, if it's vegetables, it will still do the job. So probiotics, it's actually already live bacteria. So virtually when you take probiotics, you deliver live bacteria inside your gut, and then obviously multiplying your good bacteria. So that's any fermented foods which creates this live bacteria, creating excellent benefit for your body. So that's yogurts with live bacteria, kefir, extremely good. I probably would say better than yogurt because it's less processed. Miso soup, sauerkraut with cabbage, fermented cabbage, or fermented cucumbers, or fermented carrots. To be honest, you're unlikely to find it in the supermarkets. Well, not in the UK at least. In some countries it's very cultural. But to be honest, even if you Google, you have very simple recipes how to create, for example, fermented cucumbers. They're very delicious, very healthy, similar cabbage. It's a very easy process, very cheap and easy process of doing this at home. So you know, for example, picked vegetables, it doesn't mean you can go to supermarket and buy from the shelf jar with picked vegetables full of vinegar. It's not containing any live bacteria, so it's not about that. So it should be fermented vegetables, and if you buy them, they should be in the fridge. They can't be on the shelf. Everything on the shelf never will contain any live bacteria. So again, just to avoid confusion, but there are multiple sources of probiotics, and if you take them, again, it's actually restores your gut microbiome very quickly. Some studies say within 10-14 days. If even your gut microbiome very disbalanced, just adhering to these healthy choices, it can restore gut microflora very, very quickly. And take home messages. As I said, there are a lot of things to cover, but I try to make it contented as much as possible, just to cover all most important areas, and then you can make your own search or ask questions if you have any. So take home messages, at least 50%, I would say much more than that, but at least 50% of all cancer cases can be actually prevented through incorporation of healthy lifestyle. And huge part of this lifestyle changes, it's dietary habits. Unhealthy weight can significantly increase risk of many types of cancers. And also, I didn't mention here, but if somebody watched my first talk about shortening of the telomeres, so I probably mentioned there as well that if you take low-calorie foods regularly, then you stop shortening your telomeres. So that means you actually delay aging process as well. So yeah, so food is very important. It's directly affects our genes as well. So not directly, but through metabolic change. So next home message: gut bacteria plays important role in cancer prevention and inhibition of the cancerous growth. And our dietary habits is a major factor to create gut microflora composition, creating good or bad types. And it can be changed very quickly. So never late. So consuming regularly prebiotics and probiotics, it's the most common way to establish good gut microbiome, which is absolutely essential, as we discussed, to keep weight healthy and immune system working effectively. Now, common question about vitamins. I would not advise taking any artificial vitamins. They very unlikely to be beneficial, but they could be harmful. So the main thing is that many trials showed that actually if you take vitamins artificially, they not working the way if you take them like in natural way, just with food. So if vitamins absorbed from food, they work completely different way than just consuming artificial vitamins. Probiotic supplements may not also work the same way as probiotic consumed with food. There is some data stating that it's fine to just buy powder and it will, deliver all the live bacteria just directly to your gut. I probably would be careful with these statements, because obviously if somebody wants to sell something, they need to succeed making this advertisement. My main message really, if you can consume all the required vitamins, enzymes, and minerals from food, that's the way to do it. If you're really stuck and you can't consume all the required microelements, which are crucially important for switching, healing mechanism in your cells, you can use something like deep marine phytoplankton. They natural and they contain absolutely unique formula of different microelements required to our body. But general message, just stick to healthy food, and that would be the most beneficial thing you can do for your body. So the change of lifestyle, the change of dietary habit is a hard work. There is no magic pill the doctor can give and sort it out for you. But if you do want to switch on healing mechanisms in the body, so the food is essential to start with. So I wish you joy, health, and happiness.